Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and I am also a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I want to talk about a topic that I think should help a lot of folks kind of understanding where they fit. Quiet men are attractive. I think a lot of people think this way. However, I think people get it mixed up with shy. I am not saying shy men. I am actually particularly talking about quiet men. And I think this is very important because quiet and shy, both of them are not very vocal folks, right? But one is comfortable with being that way and the other one is behaving in a certain way because they're uncomfortable with the particular situation they're in, particularly shy people, right? Shy people, they kind of want to talk and speak up, but they are too shy to do so. So it's almost like something is holding them back. Quiet people they're quiet. They have no issue with that. They have no problem with that. And actually, they typically only speak when necessary. And that's the main leverage that quiet men have. And that's why a lot of times they're perceived as attractive. But what I wanted to actually do is break up the concept of why quiet men, not shy men, are attractive. And we're going to maybe talk about maybe 7 points as to why this particularly is. And I think it's going to be very helpful for anybody who's kind of confused which category do they fit in, if you're quiet or if you're shy. Because I will say, I think men don't have a lot of clarification of what is attractive. It's confusing. I think with women, there's like so many media, social media stuff, media outlets, books, even so many things where women can kind of know what men find attractive. Women talk about it ever since they were younger. What is attractive? Men are not thinking about that. They're thinking about other things. Sometimes there's pressure at home from their dad or their mom. And so men have a different concept. And then when they grow up and they're starting to be more comfortable with women, they kind of don't know what's attractive. And so I'd like this as a guideline. My goal is to make this video more of a guideline. So the first one is he displays emotional regulation. So quiet men can be perceived as someone who's regulated, but even more particularly, I would say men who are emotionally regulated tend to be a little bit more quiet, not all the time. And part of the reason is because his emotions are not necessarily spilling over or being very outward or affecting his affect to the point where he becomes loud, at least not too commonly. And so he's displaying emotional regulation, and that emotional regulation aspect is attractive because it allows women to feel and perceive that you're in control of yourself, which means you're able to control other people to some extent. And you're not going to make decisions that can hinder potentially your future family or anything of that sort based on your emotions. You're going to be very decisive and protective about what needs to be done. You're able to delegate those things, particularly because you're emotionally regulated. A lot of times with attraction, particularly with women, they think about it in terms of a safety perspective. And this is not even conscious. A lot of this is subconscious and it's biological and psychological. They're going to think, who is a person who's able to take care of me and our potential offspring? As we can look at it just from a logistical standpoint, but also looking at it from a psychological standpoint, someone who's very emotionally dysregulated, they're going to attract women who are also emotionally dysregulated. But a woman who is comfortable and she wants a family and she's more regulated emotionally, she's comfortable with herself, she's going to want somebody emotionally regulated so that they can actually start their family and not have a lot of those barriers, him getting angry randomly, him being really, really defensive all the time, him being jealous all the time. Women who are more regulated, they don't want a guy like that. They want someone who's more regulated so that they can potentially move on to other stages of their life and start working on those things. They don't want too many barriers. And that's why emotional regulation is very attractive. The next one is when he does initiate and make a move, it comes across very intentional and very decisive. Remember, I had mentioned this is different than shy. Shy men tend to be, not all the time, a little bit uncomfortable with initiation. And I know a lot of you guys don't like initiating, and maybe that's your own specific characteristic of yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean you're shy. And so please take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But quiet men have no issue initiating. They just initiate when they want to, and they're intentional and very decisive. I'd like to give a little bit of self-disclosure, but if anybody doesn't want to hear it, you can skip like a couple minutes ahead. I would say like 3 minutes ahead approximately. A lot of you guys know I'm in a long-term relationship. And also a lot of you guys know, because I've shared it many times before, he initiated and asked for my number. And I didn't even know him before. He just came up to me. That's kind of how we met. And yes, of course, I gave him my number. But he was very concise about it. He said pretty clearly that he thinks I'm pretty. That's what he said first. Then he said, "Are you single?" I said yes. And then he said, "Okay, can I have your number?" And so I gave him my number. And my response was yes. And I said, "You're brave." And I like that. That's what I said to him. We both are very direct concise people, so it might not be that easy of an exchange, but for us, it was like a very short exchange. It was like less than a minute. Very clear. And then I gave him my number, and like 15 minutes later, he texted me. We set up a date, and we've been together for years. But why do I bring that up? He's a quiet person. I am too, by the way. But we're talking about men today, particularly with this video. He's a quiet man, but he's incredibly intentional and very decisive. He's very, very decisive to the point where I don't even know how he does it. I am not so decisive, but he is. He's very intentional. He's very decisive. And when he does make a move or does initiate, he means it 100%. And that is kind of what I mean by like a quiet, more decisive man. A lot of men are like this, actually. I think maybe it's more common with men. They are quiet, but when they need to do something, they just do it. There's no boundary. There's no issue. That's the way he is. And that's what I mean by when they make a move or when they initiate, it's very intentional. It's very decisive. And the reason why women like it is because it comes across like safety. I feel safe knowing that he's like this. I don't feel like I'm ever going to, like, even if I'm struggling with a decision, he is very clear about making decisions. I've shared another piece of this, and some people don't like this, but I have mentioned before, like when we go on dates or anything, he just orders the food because I'm very picky about the food that I eat, and he knows what I eat. Plus, I have a very quiet voice, and if there's music in the background or something, it's usually hard for the waiter or waitress to hear me. And so he just orders for me, and usually he knows what I want to eat, so it works very well. I have a very specific palate. I know people think that that's maybe, I don't know what that is, but I have no problem with it. And part of it is because he's very decisive. I might sit there and be like stuck between two salads or two soups, even though he knows what I want sometimes more than I do. And so sometimes he'll just make that decision for me. I like that. I'm okay with that. But I know it's annoying for some men that women do that. But I admit, I am honest, I do have that issue. The next one is he listens before he speaks. A lot of men who are quiet, they like to absorb and listen to what is being told to them before they say something. And there's a couple reasons why this is attractive. One, it's very respectful, okay? The next one is that he doesn't think he knows everything. And this is what's attractive because men who don't feel like they know everything, they actually learn more because they get to hear other information. So they actually come across very dominant in an educational standpoint, but intelligent standpoint because he knows that he doesn't know everything. Nobody knows everything. And so he is able to learn as he listens from other people, mentors, for example. So he always listens before he speaks, typically. That's very attractive. The next one is a lot of these quiet men, they don't need to fill up space because they're secure with themselves. And so he's not going to be very loud and be very, not assertive. He doesn't need a lot of attention, is probably the best way to put it. He's not trying to do anything fake or abnormal to get like a spotlight on him. He's fine with just letting things fall where they are because he's secure with himself. And women who are healthy and secure want secure men because, as I mentioned before, they want to move forward with the relationship. They don't want a lot of back and forth, and they just want to feel safe with him because he is secure with himself and he'll be able to provide what he needs to and she's able to provide what she needs to. The next one is he's very respectful towards other people, but he also expects respect back. This is really important. A lot of people who are respectful towards other people, or they perceive themselves respectful, what they do is they're actually respecting other people because they're afraid of conflict or confrontation. But when you really respect someone, you're okay with engaging a little bit of conflict because you respect them in that certain regard. And so a lot of men, what they do is they do respect pretty much everyone they talk to, but they expect to be respected back, and they're okay with setting that boundary when it's crossed. Hey, don't talk like that to me. I don't appreciate that. Don't do this when I didn't say otherwise. They're comfortable setting that boundary, and so this is why this is very important. The next one is he is fine with being alone, and he's very selective with who he chooses in his life. This shows that he's not just somebody who just needs any person in his life, any friend, any woman, any career. He's selective. He chooses. And why women find this attractive is because, as I mentioned, it's decisive. He can feel in himself that he's not just going to choose anybody. And so if a woman is with a man like this, she actually feels special. She feels special because he's selective, because he's alone. And that's why a lot of women do like quiet men. And the last one is when he does talk, It's something he's very passionate about and allows him to communicate his values and connect with other people. And women love this one. They just love when you're passionate about something because it makes her feel like there is some intentionality behind what you do. You have things to share, you have things to teach. For example, from a biological standpoint, if you become a father, you can share some of these hobbies with your son or your daughter. And these are things that women both consciously and subconsciously look for in a man. And so, yeah, quiet men are attractive. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.